Let's bring in our company, Jamie Floyd, legal analyst and former domestic policy advisor for the Clinton administration. Kelly Wallace is chief correspondent for iVillage. And Michelle Bernard, an MSNBC political analyst and president of the Bernard Center for Women, Politics and Public Policy. Good morning to all of you. And I think people have been stunned by what is really the domino effect here. Jamie, let me start with you. President Obama seemed to get pretty across the board good marks for what happened and how he handled the situation in Egypt. What does he do now? Where does he go with this now?
Well, I think the best response of the Obama administration and of President Obama himself has been the common sense cautiousness. Let's wait and see. That's a direct quote. Wait and see what happens. We have been very quick on the ground, those of us not in the administration, to see this through our own prism of revolution and democracy. But revolution really means complete change. And even in Egypt, where they did topple a 30-year dictator, we've not seen complete constitutional change. And we are seeing a military regime there, and we are seeing a response on the part of Gaddafi in Bahrain today, on the part of the royalists and their military, to respond, having seen what happened in Egypt, with crushing, as we heard Nick Kristof report, crushing military response. So we need to wait and see what's going to happen. It may not, in fact, be democracy. What we're really seeing is instability, and that is a direct concern for U.S. interests in the Middle East.
I just jump in there, Chris, because that, I think, is the big challenge, right, for the White House, because, they want to sort of proceed, as you said, with this sort of common sense caution. But if you see regimes, brutally attacking the people on the ground, this is a difficult thing for the administration. Bahrain is an ally, as you mentioned, a key strategic ally for the United States. But at the same time, they want to be on the side of democracy and also make sure that they're not hurting their own people. It is a very difficult thing between one supporting a regime that is, a great ally and keeps stability at the same time with being on the right side of democracy and the equal treatment of people.
Michelle, some of these countries have been trying to sort of get ahead of the curve. Libya released some prisoners. Some countries have actually handed out cash to people to try to appease them. But do you think that there's any chance the genie is going to be put back in the bottle in the Arab world?
Absolutely not. Pandora's box has been open, and what we have seen beginning in Tunisia and spreading all across North Africa, now into the Middle East, is that people, men and women alike, particularly young people, are crying out for democracy, for freedom, for individual rights, for a lot of the things that, quite frankly, here at home, we take for granted on a daily basis. I don't think that there is any way to turn this around. The administration, I suspect, is going to be doing a lot of backdoor diplomacy. Clearly, we are dealing with a country that is an important U.S. ally, but also the bottom line is we are a country that stands for freedom, and I don't think that the United States can sit back and watch another country slaughter its people. Time and time again, we have intervened in countries like South Africa, in Rwanda, all over the world, and there will be a lot of backdoor diplomacy because of this.
I think there's another argument, though, that is made, which is that when you make a deal with the devil, at some point, payment comes due. And we have supported autocrats and dictators in countries that were strategically important to us. This has actually been, in some ways, a cornerstone, Kelly, of American foreign policy, of American diplomacy. Obviously, we have this immediate problem, but long term, do we need to be seriously reassessing these kinds of deals?
Well, that's right. I mean, this has been sort of the state of operations for 30 years, and for reasons, right? For key reasons. Stability is important. These alliances are key against enemies in this world. But I think it's the kind of thing where there's got to be a lot of reassessment going on. Just as Michelle said, the genie is so out of the bottle. These younger generations, they're not going to sit back and take the promises that their moms and dads might have had. The social networking and other things are showing them that change is possible and they can make it happen. So you're clearly going to have to see reassessments.
Yeah, you've got a Muammar Gaddafi who's been in power twice the length of time that some of these protesters have been alive.
41 years, and
right?
as you say, that rooster comes home to roost.
Yeah. Chris, can I just add one point?
Yeah, real quick, Michelle.
Just along the lines of what you were saying, it is time for the United States government to reassess. When we talked about promoting democracy in Iraq, when it was time to rewrite the Iraqi constitution, women's rights were completely left out of the discussion. The U.S. government had a lot to do with that. And as we go forward in how we relate to other countries, we basically have to walk the talk.
Well, there's a shocking new poll out that finds that while they may be everywhere, most Americans still reject single moms. Let's bring back our company, Jamie Floyd, Kelly Wallace, Michelle Bernard. This is from a Pew poll. It divides people into 3 groups, and 2 of those groups, the majority, vast majority, almost 100%, say women having children without a male partner to raise them is bad for society. Michelle, what do you make of that?
You know, it's interesting. If you take a look in depth at the Pew poll, my reading of it, at least, is not so much that people are against single mothers, but mostly are saying that they understand the importance of fathers and they are pro-family. As an African American woman, I can tell you one of the parts of the study that I found most interesting is that if you actually take a look at, for the most part, minority communities, it is minority communities where we have seen, a negative impact in the community when parents are not together and you don't have 2 people parenting children. That community overwhelmingly is saying we don't need to have so many single mothers. Kids need both of their parents.
Yeah, I think what surprised a lot of people, Kelly, about this poll is people were pretty accepting of single-sex parents, gay couples, accepting of women who made the choice not to have children, which, 10, 20 years ago, that's all the question you got was about when you're going to have kids. But what do you make of it?
And also accepting of unmarried parents, too. So that,
people living together but having children.
I think 2 things. Echoing what Michelle said, that people are not embracing, a single motherhood, but they are accepting it, unlike they did, 20 years ago. But that same point that Michelle was making, which to me was the most surprising, because this third that accepted everything else except single motherhood, young, democratic, independent, mostly minorities. So they are clearly seeing from firsthand experience, perhaps, the economic, social impact of single motherhood. But I think, this is, nearly 4 in 10 unmarried births to...
That's right. Right now, 4 out of 10 births are to unmarried women. Jamie, do you see anything about this that would say that unmarried women with children could face discrimination, that their kids could face discrimination?
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating about this is, of course, sometimes women do make a choice to have children on their own, but by and large, it is not by choice. Sometimes the husband can die, sometimes the husband can leave you, sometimes there is no husband. So that's a fascinating factor. A lot of this is about religion. A lot of it is generational. It is not always younger people who are making this judgment, but it is older people when you look at the Pew study. But we do see that attitudes change. It was only 4 decades ago that black people could not marry white people by law in a majority of states in this country, and gay people are still fighting for the right to marry in this country. So I think that we do see attitudes can change, and a lot of times it's based on stereotypes. The stereotype that a functional family is one in which 2 people are married and that a single parent cannot be a functional parent, and that's not the way we should make policy.
Jamie, Kelly, Michelle, thanks to all of you.